Welcome to the Black Women Talk Tech podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Lowe. Each episode features conversations with a Black woman founder building an innovative technology company. Tech is a collective that identifies, supports, and encourages Black women to build the next billion-dollar business. Hello, I'm Chelsea Lowe, and today I have Chantal Emmanuel, co-founder and CTO of LimeLoop. Chantal, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So can you tell us a little bit more about what is LimeLoop?
LimeLoop is kind of an answer to the problem that we're having today with the growth of e-commerce. So kind of overnight, e-commerce has emerged as a really important and great way to buy things. It's at 15% right now of our shopping is done through online, but we never really caught up when it comes to packaging on how to deal with that. So we're using a lot of the same old methods that we use with retail. And so LimeLoop is kind of the answer to that, to say that, you know, the things that we're doing to the environment, the things that we're doing around consumer experience, what we're doing around kind of brands interaction and cost isn't working anymore. So what LimeLoop is, it's a returnable shipper. It's made out of upcycled billboard vinyl. And what we do is we partner with brands so that if you were to order something online from one of our partners, instead of getting it in a cardboard box, you get it in one of our shippers. You take it out. There's a return label already in there. So you send it back out in that same bag, and then that company's able to use it again and again. So like I said, it's really just our answer to the growing packaging problem that we're seeing these days.
And who's the target companies that you're looking to market this to?
That's a great question. So right now with our shipper, we're focused on what we call soft goods. And so think kind of apparel companies, bedding companies, kind of things that are not necessarily needing protecting in the same way. At the same time, we're actively doing research and development on new shippers that we can use so that we're able to also access cosmetics and body care and more fragile items like that.
Nice. And how did you get started in this? Can you tell us more about your background and what made you the best team to really build this product out?
No, that's great. Yeah, I kind of had a roundabout entry into technology. I actually in college, I majored in English and anthropology. So obviously graduated, like, what am I going to do with an English and anthropology minor? And everyone's like, are you going to be a teacher? And I'm like, nah, it's not really my thing. So I worked for a couple of years in nonprofit. And it was ironic because through the process of working at a nonprofit, I found myself so attracted to the technology part of it. And I was the one in the office that everyone went to when they had to like run Salesforce reports or do data entry or to figure out a way to make that go quicker. And I really figured out that I loved how not only using technology, but the way that we were able to leverage technology to get more done was really fascinating to me. So then I was talking to a friend about it, and he himself was a software engineer. And he's like, well, basically what you're describing that you're doing and you're loving is what I do on a day-to-day basis as a software engineer. And it hadn't really been something that I thought about as a career path. Like I said, I was English and anthro, so never really came across that in college or in high school. Started doing some online tutorials and I was like, this is awesome. Like people get to spend their days solving puzzles and figuring things out on a computer. Like this is totally my jam. So kind of made a complete switch from a program manager at a nonprofit, took classes and became a software engineer over the course of about a year. So worked for a while, worked at an awesome startup with one of my now co-founders, Ashley, and that was a company called Red Clay. Really got to build a company from the ground up on the software part of things. Took some time, worked at a consulting firm, which was amazing because it kind of gave me an opportunity to work with a lot of different companies and a lot of really large companies and see what their problems look like with technology. And then I got a call from Ashley a little over a year ago with the idea of LimeLoop. And I joke because when she called me and told me about the idea, I literally had a stack of Amazon boxes next to me that I just been like putting off, throwing out in the recycling bin. So I'm like, I think you're onto something here, and I am totally your target audience. If that's not a testament to being a market fit, then I don't know what else is. And again, just the idea of being able to leverage. So sure, you probably aren't wondering why does a packaging company need a CTO in the first place? Mm-hmm. And the reason is because not only is it about the shipper and the bag, it's about the technology around that. So now one of our shippers is expected to last about 10 years. So what happens when you have something that you can have for 10 years? And what does it mean to learn more about that shipper's journey, where it's been, where it's going? How can we get it to where it needs to go faster? What are the security issues that it's running into along the way? And we're building out a sensor and the platform to be able to kind of tell that story. So a lot of serendipitous and random twists and turns that I think landed me to right where I need to be.
Right. So right now you have the package, but you said you're building a sensor and a platform, a software platform that's going to track. Can you share more about that?
For sure, yes.
That you're doing, or
so V1 of the software is actually available already. So as a brand, using one of our shippers, you have access to our platform. And so right now it's mainly around tracking and asset management, as well as the environmental impact. So you as a brand can see exactly how many trees you're saving, how much oil and water you're saving with each shipment that you're sending. You can produce your labels on the platform, and you can track the shipper itself. And then with our next version of the bags, we'll include sensors in them. So kind of using that data more at real time, and also kind of being able to have other features around security features and tracking, and whether it's temperature or humidity. So different things that kind of give you more information about the status and the situation that the bag is in at any given time.
Especially with all the meal delivery kits.
Exactly.
I wasn't even thinking about that. The temperature and how long something's been sitting at someone's door before they retrieve it.
Exactly. All of that is blind to us right now. So you could be bringing in your meal kit that is no longer really food safe, and you would never know that it dipped below to where it needs to be at any given time. So just giving that visibility to brands and consumers, we think is really important, because like I said, we're only at 15%. So what happens at 25 and 50% e-commerce when most of the things we end up buying are through online, and we're kind of blind in a way that we're not right now in the store.
Can you share more or other problems similar to that your product could be solving?
One of the things that I mentioned before was around that kind of consumer experience. So like right now you get a box in the mail. Usually it's 2 or 3 times bigger than it actually needs to be, which is driving a lot of people crazy already. You grab your scissor, you carefully cut off that tape and making sure not to damage your product. Take it out, you break it down. Like I said, if you're like me, it's staying in your kitchen until you're sick of looking at it. And then you're taking it out to the recycling bin. And what a lot of people don't realize is what happens after that. And historically, what would happen is that cardboard box would first make its way to your local recycling facility, who would then ship it all the way over to China, where it would then be broken down, turned into pulp, made into a new box, and then shipped all the way back to the States in order to fill the next time you make an order from that company, which is a really, really resource-intensive process in and of itself. And so when you add to that the fact that last year China said, and I think rightfully so, like, we don't want to deal with your garbage anymore. So here, all of a sudden, our plan, which is to send that garbage over to China, is no longer an option. So what a lot of cities, especially in America, are having to do is either throw those recycling items straight into the dump, or kind of hold on to it in hopes that someone else decides that they're willing to take our garbage for a change. So now this process is not only deteriorating the consumer experience, but in our environment, which the UN report came out last year, so I think a lot of people know about, is really suffering from these single-use boxes that we're having and we're bringing our items home for. So LimeLoop kind of tackles both of those. It's a better experience to get your really nice looking bag, zip it open, take your product out, drop it in your mailbox, which for a lot of people is actually closer than their recycling bin. So it's actually an easier couple of steps. And then the environmental part of that is so huge, where that shipper, like I said, is going to be used over and over again for 10 years instead of that single-use box, which now has to be processed and turned back into a box after the one thing that you ordered in it.
Great. Thanks for sharing more about the environmental impacts and how you're solving those issues. Can you talk about your marketing strategy and how you're reaching out to and connecting with these brands?
So we've actually been pretty lucky, and I'm going to knock on wood as I say that, in that most of our customers are actually inbound. So what I mean by that is that they reached out to us. Either they read about us in an article, or another brand that's using us told them about us. And it's companies who mainly are looking for more sustainable ways of sending their items out. So I had our pilot year last year. So we have 12 customers using the platform and the shippers. And we have a pipeline of about 150 companies that we're actively working through that have come all inbound to us. But we know that that's not going to last forever. So we have a pretty robust marketing scheme that we're putting into place. And it's a big combination of kind of just getting the word out there. So big social media and PR pushes, as well as kind of being boots on the ground at events, different publications, different kind of event meetups, and just letting people know that we're out there and we're a viable option if you're looking for an alternative to single-use boxes.
Great. And can you share more about the tech ecosystem in San Francisco and more about kind of where you've chosen to develop your tech company?
For sure, yeah. So we pretty lucky in that we were already located in the Bay Area when we came together. So being in the kind of the tech capital of the world obviously has its advantages. But it wasn't a completely easy choice to decide to stay here. And I think a lot of the things that we looked at is kind of the things that every company should look at when they're deciding where they're kind of put down roots. And that's the things around like, where is the talent going to be? So what kind of roles are you hiring for in the next couple of years? And are you going to be able to find people with the skills and the talent that you need in that particular city? And then what's the competition for that? So yes, we're in the middle of the Bay Area. And we're going to need a lot of engineers to build out our platform and our sensors. But there's also a lot of other companies based out of the Bay Area that need software engineers and hardware engineers. So what does it look like when you're all competing for a limited number of roles? And does it also actually make sense to be in that city if that's the case? What's the quality of life that you're looking for yourself and your employees? What kind of salaries would that mean? So if you're trying to make a budget and you need to increase it by X amount because you're in New York or San Francisco versus in other cities where the cost of living is lower, so your salaries can match that cost of living. Those are all things you got to think about. So for us as co-founders, we kind of got together and decided what was that hierarchy, like what were the must-haves that we needed in our lives and the lives of our employees and the growth of our company, and kind of decided to kind of stay here and build a company here for that reason.
And what is it like being a Black woman tech founder in the Bay Area?
It's interesting. I get asked that a lot. And the truth of the matter is I try not to spend much time thinking about it as being any different. Because I think you can get really caught up in that and wondering, leaving a meeting where you get a no and thinking, is it because I'm Black? Is it because I'm a woman? And that doesn't help you. It doesn't help your company. So I like to look at it like if a VC says no to me because of that reason, or someone doesn't want to work with me or take on our company as a product or a vendor because of that reason, it actually helps everyone involved, because I don't want you as part of my journey if that's the reason that you didn't want to work with me. So if you're going to filter yourself out for that reason, that's better for everyone, and it leaves more room for the people who actually want to work with us and be part of this great journey that we're on to do so. So I focus the energy on building the company and building our brand, and the rest seems to be falling into place then.
And then have there been any benefits to being a Black woman in this ecosystem in San Francisco?
I feel like the network is pretty strong. And I think because there's relatively few of us, we come together and we help each other out, and we share information and we share resources in a really great way. That's why I love your newsletter for that reason. I feel like I walk away every single time with at least one action item, like, okay, follow up with this or look into that. And that's just kind of the ecosystem that we've created around ourselves, knowing that there are so few of us. So why not help each other kind of get a leg up, as opposed to see it as competition or anything like that, has been a really great part to be a part of.
Have you participated or been involved with any other groups in the area, or maybe remotely or online, that have been supportive?
Yeah. So when I first started out, I was actually the San Francisco director for Women Who Code. And that's an international nonprofit that offers women in development roles everything from tutorials to help with getting jobs, to just networking, kind of the whole gamut around the technology ecosystem. That was really helpful. I was actually also part of the steering committee for Bay Area's Blacks in Tech, which meets about quarterly at different events. And again, all about kind of career leveling up, networking, getting in touch with each other, getting face-to-face time with these big tech companies, which is huge, especially if you're looking for a job or are looking for a strategic partnership or anything like that. Just kind of opening that door and letting people have those face-to-face conversations have been really helpful.
And can you talk about your experience with access to capital? So where did the startup capital come from, or just your process with going? You mentioned for VC investors and that process. For
sure. So like I said, we just wrapped up our pilot year. So 2018 was our pilot year. And that was funded complete with a friends and family round that we raised earlier on in the year. And friends and family in a very literal way, like close friends and people we worked with in the past, and family members, dads, brothers, sisters, writing us checks and getting us to a place where we could kind of prove out this idea, make sure that it was viable, that people would be willing to pay for it, so that we can start out this year on a really good leg and really good proof points to show that this is a real product that people want. So the friends and family year ended in about December now. And so we're actually raising a seed round, a $2 million seed round right now. And that's where we're kind of switching from that friends and family to more conventional VCs and angel investors, and kind of hitting the pavement with that.
And do you have any advice on access to capital in general for other founders in your experience so far, or a lesson learned that you could share?
Yeah, I think one thing is to kind of learn the landscape. And so I think a lot of people go straight to like, okay, I'm going to raise money, let me go after VCs. And for a lot of people that will be the right answer, but not for everyone. So what does it mean to apply for grants if you're doing more of a social enterprise or an environmental startup where there might be a lot of government money out there? What does it mean to do a Kickstarter or some kind of other crowdfunding instead and kind of get capital that way? What does it mean to go after angels versus VC? So kind of learning what those different options are and which one makes the most sense for you. And that's not just about ease of access, but it's about what kind of equity are you looking to give up or not give up? And how does that affect it based on who you try to get money from? So kind of just taking a pause, learning the landscape and learning what really makes sense for you and your company and where you're trying to go and how fast you're trying to get there. Because one thing that's important to note when you're bringing in angel investors or VCs is that they, rightfully so, want to see a return on their investment. So if you're looking to build a lifestyle brand where in the terms of, and not lifestyle in terms of Facebook and things like that, but lifestyle in terms of not growing too fast, but able to kind of meet your day-to-day expenses and kind of growing little by little, VC money and angel investor money might not make sense to you because if they're not able to see a return, it doesn't really make sense for them. So what kind of business are you trying to grow? And where does it make most sense for a business like that to get money from? I'd implore you to kind of sit and think through before you actually start hitting the pavement.
And what has been in this pilot year one of the most challenging aspects of growing the business, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, one thing, and I mean, I guess I wouldn't say that we've overcome it. It's going to be like an active part of our growth is just like the education part of it. Because as much as our experience of using one of our shippers is better than the way that it is right now, it's a change. And anytime you're asking someone to make a change, it's going to take time and it's going to take effort. And so with consumer behavior part of it, we've really taken a step back and said, we need to have as many conversations with consumers as possible. We need to let people know we're out there. We need to let people know how to use our shippers. We need to give people incentives for going and doing something different. And just finding any opportunity that we can to kind of teach people. Just like what I was talking before around the Chinese sword policy. Like most people don't know that. And now people will know, be more aware of what the recycling process really looks like and maybe might go do some more research and see how that affects their lives. And so it's just going to be an ongoing part that we've signed up for and actually really enjoy letting people know and educating people about the behavior change necessary to see the improvements that they want in their lives and the environment.
Great. Can you share more about the hiring process and sourcing technical talent?
Yeah, I would say to anyone who is actively or will be actively looking for technology hires to start sooner than you think, because the process will take longer than you think. And if ideally, you want to start going through your network. So whether you know people looking for work or know someone who might have access, that's really a really good place to start. And then practice getting people excited about what you're doing. I think when you're in it day after day, you realize how important it is and you're really fired up and excited about it and you assume everyone else is. But you need to remember that these people are just coming in cold and don't know anything about you or your idea. So it's almost like you're pitching yourself in the same way that you would a VC or someone else, like just getting people excited about the problem that you're solving to the point where they want to help solve this problem too. So just don't get lackadaisical about just sending out your job description and thinking that it's going to land in someone's lap and they're going to get so excited and apply immediately. No, like you have to get people kind of bought in and excited as you are about the product. And then use not just your network, but branch out. And one of the things that annoys me the most, people are always like, I'm trying to hire more women engineers and I just can't find them. I just don't know, like no one's applying. And I'm like, well, have you reached out to Women Who Code? Have you reached out to this organization? Have you even Googled organizations around women who are in development? And the answer is almost always no. And I'm like, well, you can't just build it and hope they come. Like you need to actually actively go out and find people. So I encourage anyone who's looking to hire different people to actually get out into different crowds and tell people more about what you're up to and just sit back and hope that it all kind of falls into place.
Great. And then what is your long-term vision or goal for LimeLoop?
So the goal is to kind of reimagine the way that all goods are shipped and received. So right now, like I said, we're focused on soft goods. It's a really good and large industry to kind of get our feet wet and learn and change and grow. But the problem is bigger than just apparel. So I want it to be that in 10, 15 years, whether you're sending a letter to your grandmother or a refrigerator across America, that you're able to do that with some kind of LimeLoop shipper. And in doing so, you're helping yourself and the brands and the environment in ways that cardboard and plastic poly bags just aren't going to be able to do and aren't doing right now. So whatever you're sending, I want it to be through a LimeLoop shipper.
Great. And then do you have any other words or wisdom of advice for other Black women tech founders?
I mean, I feel like it's become even like cliche now, this idea of self-care, but I feel like it actually can't be voiced enough. I think that as stressful as my last year has been, I've spent more time than I have in my entire life taking care of myself. and doing that, knowing that it's so necessary. So like you could probably hear in my voice, I have a little bit of a cold now, and it's the first cold I've had since I started this company. And I'm like pissed off that it happened because I'm like, I know that I got lax in my vitamins and my workout for a while. And I'm like, of course I got sick. And it's detrimental when you have so much going on to kind of be out for the count for a while. So I take more time now than I ever have to work out, to take time for myself, to eat well, to take my multivitamins, to do all those things that I kind of laughed at and thought people on Instagram had too much time on their hands if they were doing. But you realize that to not do that and to let yourself fall into being sick or worried or anxious does nothing to help you, does nothing to help grow your company. It actually does the opposite. So I advise anyone who's kind of in that grind right now, staying up all hours of the night, eating fast food because it's easier and it's convenient, to like really stop and pause and think about like how long you can run like that. And the answer is not very. So kind of make the changes you need to make sure that you're in it for the long haul.
Great. And where can people find more information about LimeLoop and what you all are building?
Yeah. So if you go to the limeloop.com, you find out all about our processes, the brands that we're working with. So if you want to order from one of our brands and help support sustainable growth and packaging, it's all there at the limeloop.com.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing more about your story and your company.
Thank you. So good to talk to you.
Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Chelsea Lowe. More resources for Black women tech founders are available at blackwomentalktech.com. This podcast was produced by the Enterprise Center's The Grit Studios. Links to resources mentioned are available in the show notes below. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Catch you next time on the Black Women Talk Tech podcast.